Previously on Transformers University, we took a look at everything Transformers from 1985, and now we're going to wrap it up by talking about the legacy of the Transformers toys and fiction from 1985, plus some missed opportunities looking ahead to the future of the Transformers brand right now on Transformers University. Hello, my friend, and welcome to episode 44 of Transformers University. We're going to talk about the legacy of 1985. I am your host, Anthony Brucali, owner, operator, madman behind www.TFU.INFO, the world's longest running transforming toy archive. And I cannot believe the end is finally here. Not for this show, but for 1985. We started breaking down 1985 31 episodes ago. So when we started 1985 exploring this topic, that was right back when my wife had told me we were expecting our first child. And my daughter is now 8 weeks old. So, it's been a while. We published episode 12 on March 12th, 2018, and we are just wrapping up 2018 on the calendar as we finish up 1985. And if 1984 was the bedrock base of the Transformers brand, then 1985 was the explosion. Think about this, okay? So Hasbro reached out beyond Takara for more toys to add to the line, the Takutoku toy stuff, the Bandai stuff. I mean, Jetfire, that Jetfire, Omega Supreme, the Deluxe Insecticons, the Deluxe Autobots, Shockwave. There's a lot there that wasn't Takara that Hasbro had to reach out to other companies to get to fulfill demand. And with that success came copycats and counterfeits. We had the birth of the rub symbol. We had other brands coming in and trying to compete. And then we also had Transformers becoming a worldwide success in Canada, in the UK, in Europe, in Mexico, Japan, South America. So the line itself, while we always look back to the original cast of 84, 1985 is a lot of where the nostalgia, the first big wave of nostalgia really does come from, because that 84 cast did carry over into 85, and we met all sorts of new characters and people and things along the way. In particular, we had an enormous amount of television content. So we went from 16 episodes to 49 episodes in season 2. Hey Siri, what's 16 times 3?
16 times 3 is 48.
Okay, so that is more than 3 times the number of episodes just in the show. We had a full year of the U.S. comics. We had it branch out into the U.K. comics. We had video games and all the other sort of publishing that we've talked about in the last year. And I think some of the more important things we saw here was, first off, the launch of the 85 toy line, seeing characters like the Dinobots and the Constructicons, and seeing more combiners in the show, and Shockwave. That's all huge. And then in fiction, we started to develop a core and a mythology to this stuff. So in the show, we had things like Vector Sigma and Alpha Trion and female Autobots, and going back to Cybertron, the Secret of Omega Supreme. And some of the smaller interpersonal stories like, Trader with Cliffjumper and Mirage, and Enter the Nightbird, and Raoul and Trax running around New York. And then in the comics, we had the Creation Matrix, and we had Circuit Breaker, and we got all the way up to Robot Master by the end of the year. So there were other little characters and little things being developed. We had the Ratchet and Megatron fight in the comics, which is another theme that runs over and over again throughout the history of the brand. And it's important to note that, yes, I know some of us have fatigue with 84 and 85. I do too. I get it, especially with the current state of the toy lines. I get the fatigue. But some of these things that were never touched or have only been touched on a little bit are certainly worth exploring. Um, and I think that's part of the reason why the brand was so successful beyond 85, because it could have just fizzled out after 85. And look, this is the pinnacle. 85 is certainly the pinnacle into 86, and then from there on out, it's either plateaus or lulls and has its peaks and valleys. But the 85 year is by far the most successful year in terms of not just financial success for Hasbro, but also for um, creating the mythology and the world building behind this brand. And while we're talking about how important a year 1985 was to the Transformers brand, let's talk a little bit about some of the new characters we've met, ones that had never gotten toys, and ones that did carry on to eventually get toys, because the list on both of those is fairly long, and it's certainly worth noting just to show how deep this impact is from the topics we've covered over the course of the last 10 months or so. So, characters who have never had toys, and this first one is going to be crossed off this list by the end of 2019, and that is the human character of Carly, who is going to be included with the upcoming MP Masterpiece 44 Optimus Prime, the third version of Optimus Prime they're doing that line. And she's going to be included with Sparkplug and Spike, and Sparkplug has never gotten a figure either. So those two are coming off the list by the end of next year. But up until now, still no toy of Carly from official sources. And mind you, I'm only talking official toy line stuff here, no third-party stuff. Unlicensed third party, at least. Licensed third party, we will talk about to some extent in here. But unlicensed third party, we have never seen a Carly figure in official capacity. Also, we've never seen the kids from Bot. We've never seen the transport drones from War Dawn, and I'm kind of disappointed that was never touched on in the convention figures of the fan club, because the movie figure Breacher from, oh god, it's got to be about 7 years ago, was, in my estimation, was perfect for an iteration of the transport drones, Megatron's transport drones from that year, from that episode. We've never seen the Alligator Con, the Optimus Prime that's been rebuilt into an alligator from City of Steel, nor have we seen Nergil or the Atlanteans from that from the episode Atlantis Arise. Torque 3, the supercomputer, we've never seen those, nor have we seen figures for Shockwave's Sentinel drones. Lots of human characters, and I'm not going to talk about all of them, but Dr. Fujiyama from Enter the Nightbird, and Sean Berger, and the mayor from Megatron's Master Plan, Augie Kane, the race car driver from Trans Europe Express. They've all never gotten toys, and I just saw an interesting note on TF Wiki, something I didn't cover in the episode where we talked about Trans Europe Express. So Augie Kane's name, his last name, Kane, was supposed to be a joke or wordplay on the Latin word for dog, which is cane, C-A-N-E, as a roundabout reference to the Hanna-Barbera character Augie Doggy. Whether or not Doggy Daddy makes it into Transformers lore in the future is yet to be seen. We do not have, never saw figures of a whole bunch of other humans. Astoria Carlton Ritz, the people of Titan from God Gambit, the aliens from Child's Play. And on the comic book side, we've never seen figures for Circuit Breaker. That was one I've personally pitched to the Marvel Legends team back when they were making 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joe size Marvel characters, because Marvel owns the rights to Circuit Breaker. And she actually appeared in Secret Wars #1 before being in Transformers comics, so therefore she was intellectual property of Marvel. I've pitched it to the Marvel team a number of times, and they've yet to do it. I would love to see them do a Circuit Breaker. We've also never seen a figure of Guardian from the UK comics, and I think that's the bulk of the list. I don't remember if I said Sentinel drones, but Shockwave Sentinel drones also on that list. Now moving over to characters who did get toys, and this is an impressive list. Some of these characters have gotten more than one toy over the years, through various outlets, through convention exclusives, through the fan club, or through mainline toy figures, such as Alpha Trion, who has gotten a number of figures over the years. Elita One, Chromia, Firestar, and Moonracer, and now Greenlight, who is one of the other female Autobots. Who news just broke just the other day that we'll be seeing a figure of her next year. Orion Pax has gotten a number of iterations, most recently in the Power of the Primes line, which is actually really close to his cartoon model, which is pretty neat. And he's part of an Optimus Prime toy, so he does turn into Optimus Prime. And Dion has even gotten a figure as a recolor of the original Wheelie toy. DevCon from The Gambler was released as a BotCon exclusive back in 2014. He was originally planned to be a BotCon exclusive, or it was an OTFCC way back in the early 2000s. Nightbird has got an official figure in Japan. Autobot Spike, or Autobot X, was released as a Creon through through BotCon, as was GB Blackrock and Robot Master. Raoul has appeared in 2 Masterpiece sets with Trax and with Road Rage. A number of the Golden Lagoon colorations of Autobots and Decepticons have been released. Most recently, in Japan, they did a small line of them with Starscream and Optimus and Beachcomber and Perceptor. It's pretty neat that they've done that. The key to Vector Sigma has been used in shows, and I'm trying to remember if there's been an official toy of that. I believe there has. I know I have one. It might have been from a convention. But yes, the key to Vector Sigma does show up as a concept down the line, as do the some of the other MacGuffins have gotten toys. The Immobilizer came with Masterpiece Wheeljack, and the masks from Hoist Goes Hollywood came with Masterpiece Sunstreaker. You can check out my review of that toy on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/TFU.INFO. And even the giant Omega Supremes in blue, the Guardian robots that are shown in flashbacks, those were made into recolors of the original Omega Supreme toy back in the early 2000s. And a lot of the toys I just mentioned are showcased in our figure archive over at www.tfu.info. Swing on by, use the navigation at the top, search by name if you need to. Check out some of these cool toys that have been inspired by 1985 fiction. Now, from the toy line, from that perspective, there's a handful of characters that have never gotten updated and probably could use one or a few. It'd actually be neat to see, because some of these things could be done fairly easily. The mini spies have never been updated, and God, as far as troop building goes, how great would it be if they released one mini spy with a deluxe mold, recolored, that maybe even came in 2 or 3 different colors, with a rub symbol that could be Autobot, could be Decepticon. I think that'd be pretty neat to see in a line. A lot of the Mexican and South American mini-bots have never been addressed as color variations on updates to their respective characters. From the deluxe Insecticons, Venom and Ransack have never been updated at all. Barrage has never received a transforming toy, though he did receive a Tiny Titans non-transforming figure a couple of years ago. Again, from the South American line, Saltman X and Saltman Z, the South American recolors of Topspin and Twin Twist could easily be done off of those characters' recent figures. And the Omnibots and the Power Dashers, the mail-away figures, have both never been updated. So there's another 6 characters that could totally get updates, especially the Power Dashers. You could totally do those with the current War for Cybertron Siege figures as recolors of some of those weaponizers. I'd totally be into that. I'm sure a lot of people totally would be into that. And if you really want to take a deep dive, the Tycho race cars, Frezon and Natron, have never been updated. And those would be neat to see, especially if they could somehow redo the glow-in-the-dark feature on those figures. Now, for you Masterpiece collectors, a number of the mainline characters have never received official Masterpiece toys. all of the mini-bots introduced in 85, Warpath, Cosmos, Beachcomber, Powerglide, Sea Spray have not. Of the cars, Hoist and Skids have not. And then, of course, you can probably toss in Perceptor and Jetfire as characters that probably could use Masterpiece figures that have not received one. And so, 1985, as I said earlier, contains tons of the early Transformers lore, but there's so much more to cover, and we're going to do that as we head into the rest of this series, because we're not stopping. This train's going full force, and we are going to keep on going into 1986, the year everything really takes a drastic change, and short term may have been terrible for the Transformers, but long term for the brand was actually a brilliant marketing decision, because it basically scarred a bunch of kids for life. But we'll get to that. So for now, I'm going to wrap up this episode by telling you exactly how you can get in touch with me. And there's lots of ways you can do it. You do it on Twitter at TFU_info. Facebook and Instagram username is TFU.INFO. Please swing on by to our YouTube channel. I would love to see more people subscribe. So if you're not subscribed there, please do so. YouTube.com/TFU.INFO. And of course, if you want to contribute to the show directly, financially, please join up on our Patreon. Patreon.com/TFU.INFO. That's Patreon.com/TFU.INFO. All of our students enrolled at our Patreon do get early access to the show at least 24 hours in advance of everyone else, and there's all sorts of benefits ranging from $1 a month to $10 a month. And if that's not your thing, I totally understand. I appreciate you just listening to this show. And if you can, it's a holiday season. You're going to do some shopping online, get those last-minute gifts from Amazon, right? Use our Amazon links, TFU.INFO/Amazon. It'll take you right to Amazon.com. And anything you buy thereafter, Amazon throws a couple pennies my way to help fund this show. Lastly, we are heading into 1986 in the next episode. There may be a little bit of a lull before we get into the meat of things. So I just want to give you a heads up. If you do not see an episode next week, the holiday season's here. You're busy. I'm busy. I'm hoping to get an episode in setting the scene for 1986, but I would really like to make sure that is well researched. So if there's a little bit of a lag, you'll know why. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not disappearing. I'm making sure that 86 is really well planned out, because 85 was a big section of stuff to cover, and 86 is probably just as big. I haven't even started to really look into it, but I know what it is in my head to some extent, and there's going to be a lot to cover. So if you see a little bit of a lag between this episode and the next one, you know why. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid. I'm coming back, and we are going to cover 1986, and there's a lot of fun to be had. We're powering on. We got a 50th episode coming up, and that's huge. I didn't know if we'd make it this far, and I'm glad we did. So for all of you who have been here for the whole ride, thank you. For all those that jumped on in the middle, here's your chance. Go back and catch up. Lots of cool stuff that we covered early on. And looking ahead, 2019, we're still going to have lots of great stuff to talk about. Lots of cool guests. I'm reaching out to more people, new people, voices you haven't heard, opinions you haven't heard, plus our bullpen of awesome people that have contributed to this show. So if you've contributed to the show by just being on it, thank you. I really do thank you. I know a lot of you listen as something you do for fun. So I hope I'm entertaining you. I hope everyone has a great holiday season, whatever holiday you're celebrating. And I hope everyone has a great New Year's. And there'll be so much more coming in 2019. Until next time, see ya.